Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sideline Breakdown. I'm Kyle, your host, and we're going to be diving into the weekend derbies between the Sharks and the Bulls, and the Stormers v the Lions. Lions doing quite well. I thought they really capitalized on the Stormers' mistakes. I thought they actually brought a much better game than I thought they would. I thought the Stormers would take it more comfortably than they actually did. So well done to the Lions. Credit to them. I think they had a pretty solid game in Cape Town. Obviously, the conditions, fantastic conditions there in the Cape. Really promoted running rugby, which was fantastic to see. And then the Bulls and the Sharks, extremely disappointing game, and I really don't think it lived up to the spectacle. Sharks fans will be very happy with the win. Bull supporters, I think it's another scratch your head moment. All in all, at the end of the day, though, I do think both teams have massive issues, and the coaching staff is going to have to reflect, as well as the players, going to have to reflect and look into the mirror and see, what's going on. I don't think either team was particularly good, and I think considering the quality that each team has in terms of players, really, really disappointing game, poor game, and a game that you can see where both teams are really lacking confidence. And, you know, Sharks obviously wanted to give one to their fans, sold out stadium in Durban, which is great to see. With that being said, provincial games don't necessarily get the hype that the Springboks do when they come and play at a stadium. So great to see a packed out crowd. But yeah, I just thought it was a disappointing game for the spectacle that it ended up being. But yeah, I think let's dive into some talking points, and we'll start with the Stormers versus the Lions in Cape Town. As I mentioned, fantastic. Credit to the Lions. I thought they did reasonably well. Obviously, starting off like a house on fire, capitalizing off a mistake that Evan Roos. We've mentioned it previously in previous episodes where we've spoken about Evan Roos and his hands. He really doesn't have the greatest hands, and in the beginning of the season, there were a lot of people who were chanting his name, saying, he should be in the Springbok squad. Considering the form he's in, he's big, he's strong, he's quick. He's reasonably good over the ball, but you can be that good if you don't have the hands and if you can't catch a ball. Considering how Rassie Erasmus plays with his eighth man, almost being as a second fullback, gathering kicks at the back. You have to be good in the air. And you look at someone like Dwayne Vermeulen, who really was pretty much a second fullback. He was absolutely fantastic in the air. And yes, Jasper isn't as good as Dwayne when it comes to aerial battles, but he's solid enough. He's reliable under the kicks. He'll take balls, high balls, and he's pretty solid. And I think that's where Evan Roos really comes up short. And prime example again this weekend, from straight from kickoff, Stormers start off from the back foot, where kickoff goes straight to Evan Roos and he drops the ball. Lions manage to secure it, go through a couple of phases. Really good pass by I think it was SJ Kotza, and Ruan Venter goes in for the try. And you're thinking, when it comes to international games and teams like Ireland, France, New Zealand, those teams will capitalize on those kinds of mistakes, and it's going to be a lot more difficult. Although the Springboks are in very good form at the moment, it is going to be much more difficult to come back when mistakes like that are being made. So something Evan Roos is going to have to work on a lot, especially if he wants to be considered for the Springboks moving forward. And considering the quality that the Springboks have at eighth man and even flank, anywhere in the loose trio, to be honest with you, guys like Jasper Wiese, Ulrich Low, Cameron Honeycomb when he comes back. Um, you look overseas, someone like Johanna Augustus. These guys are putting up their hand and arguably are more reliable than Evan Roos. And I mean, all of them have the same features: big, strong, quick. So yeah, Evan Roos is it's something that he's desperately have to be um, aware of, and something he's going to have to work on if he wants to have any future in Rassie Erasmus's plans. But yeah, like I said, Lions really brought their A game. Stormers managed to come back reasonably well. Um, yeah, I think it was quite end to end. A couple of players who had some really standout games. Look at guys like again Paul de Villiers. I don't think I can say much more than what I've already said. Really good player, and you don't. It's not often that you get guys in the type of form that he is in. So again, someone who's really putting up his hand with the Springboks, I think. But another fantastic game. Look at guys like Dylan Mart. Another really good game. The forwards, really asserting their dominance. I thought the first half Stormers did kind of struggle a little bit, and obviously I think Dobson did have kind of a what do you call it, a bomb squad on his bench. Guys like Ben Jason Dixon, RJ Smith, JD Schickeling, Kunu came off the bench as well. They really stamped their dominance in the second half, and I think that's at the end of the day what made the difference. The quality of the bench that the Stormers had, I think the Lions just kind of fell short. But again, credit to the Lions. I thought they had a pretty solid game, all things considered. And then another fantastic performance, I think, was Kobus Reinach. You can kind of see why he is the Springbok number 9, Springbok scrummy at the moment, first choice, and you have guys like Grant Williams pushing him, but still manages to keep that 9 jersey to himself. And I think this weekend showed what a quality rugby player he is, and even at the ripe old age of 35, really good player. So I think the Stormers have a fantastic combination when Sasha manages to come back. And then onto the Lions, a couple of good players. I did mention last week that Kieran Horn would be the difference, and I thought he had some very good runs. Made a couple of good breaks, fantastic try assist with a grabber through. The Someone was on him very quickly, managed to catch, drop the ball, and put it onto his boot. And Kelly Mbeku was in. So another good game from Kieran Horn. I think he's a fantastic fullback and a really good player for the Lions. And yeah, once he has extension with the Lions, which I think is quite disappointing because I would have loved to see him at the Bulls. But I think the Lions have a very solid fullback on their hands. And then on to the try scorer, as I mentioned now, Kelly Mpeku. I thought he also had a reasonably quiet game, but I thought what he did was pretty good. A couple of good breaks, couple of steps that he managed to go past a couple of guys, handoff and bump a couple of guys as all that I saw. I think he's actually quite a promising player. I'm not saying he's pulling up trees, but again, I mean, 22 years old, he's still very young, still got a lot of growth to do. He's still got a lot of growing to do in terms of his body size as well. So, if you can manage to keep this form up, I think the Lions again have a really good player on their hands and someone they can potentially build with moving forward on the wing um, with Killian Peku. So really good player there. And then, as I mentioned, I think Ruan Venter, an absolutely fantastic game as well. A really solid player, really strong player, and someone that obviously also will be looking to get his opportunity in with Rassie Erasmus in his Springbok squad. So I certainly don't think he did his chances any harm. I think if he can manage to stay fit, I think injuries are his biggest issue. But if he manages to stay fit, I think he has a really good shot at and manages to keep up this form obviously as well. I think he also has a very good shot in getting into that or breaking through into that Springbok squad and solidifying his place there. Um, but yeah, one thing I actually want to do obviously Mr. Rakanari isn't with us at the moment, but the question that's kind of on my mind when it comes to the Stormers is how reliant are they on Sasha Feinberg and Gumezulu? Obviously, Sasha at the moment is, the hottest property in rugby. Obviously, signed his new contract, which um, I think the Stormers have managed to really. It's the most positive thing for the Stormers at the moment, signing up until 2029. So 4-year contract for Sasha. I wouldn't be surprised if he eventually goes on a sabbatical, possibly to Japan or something like that. As someone like Curtly Arendse did, for example. But I mean, to get him to sign a contract up until 2029 for the next 4 years, it's really positive thing for the Stormers. So, well done to them. But yeah, I think the question remains, how reliant are they on Sasha? Yes, obviously they beat the Lions. Still, even with a depleted squad, and even without Sasha and Damian Willemse. But I think one could definitely see the potential frailties that they have at fly half. Yuri Matia, I suppose, is a solid enough backup. But I think the drop off is quite significant. So um, obviously we hope that Sasha doesn't get any long term injuries. But I think it'll be quite interesting to see how they handle. Well, I would be quite interested to see how they handle being without Sasha for a period of time. Will that form continue? Um, is it just a case of they possibly just didn't have the best game this weekend, and even without Sasha, they'll still manage to win games? Obviously, I'm not saying that Sasha is the be all and end all of the Stormers. Still have some very, very good players, but I think it's just quite interesting an interesting thought that popped into my head is the drop off from someone like Sasha to a Yuri Matia and Clinton Swart is quite significant. So yeah, interesting moving forward. But anyways, moving on to the Sharks versus the Bulls in Durban. Sharks taking the win there. Credit to them, second game in a row that they've actually won. Um, a lot of problems. I really don't think. Yes, the Sharks won, and I'm not saying that there's fans that are saying okay we back or that sort of thing, but I think the Sharks really they were poor. I thought they were really not good, and that goes to show how bad the Bulls were as well. Um, I think it was a low quality game. I really don't think there was a lot of mistakes in the game, a lot of knock-ons, forward passes. There was opportunities that I think the Bulls let slip, especially in the first half. We The Bulls dominated at scrum time, but we the Bulls just didn't take and finish off the opportunities that they had, and I think at the end of the day, that's actually why the Bulls lost. And we then come to the conversation that Mr. Rock Norris and I have been having for the last couple of weeks, and that is another second half drop off from the Bulls, where the bench comes on and they just kind of I don't know what it is. They lose it. I mean, the Bulls are in the game up until the last 10 minutes or so, and the Sharks just kind of dominated from there. I think. I think the tactics that the Sharks used was quite good. I think what I noticed certainly was, especially at scrum time when it was Sharks ball, they would give the ball to Andre Esterhuizen, who would then make 5, 6, 7 meters, obviously getting over the gain line. The Bulls forwards are still retreating, and Grant Williams would then go the same side that the Bulls forwards are obviously retreating to. So I think they managed to get a lot of gain line success with that, and that put the Bulls on the back foot quite a lot. So um, I think that's the advantage that someone like Andre Esterhuizen brings. But yeah, I just thought really poor game, and I'll get into the specific points that my thoughts on that in a second. But yeah, what are your thoughts? I think the Sharks have got a lot of problems. The Bulls, we know, obviously also has their problems. But I think the Sharks mustn't get complacent, and I think that they're back because I saw a lot of problems that the Sharks have, and it's something they're gonna have to work on. Um, so yeah, we'll see how both teams fare moving forward. But one thing I think is the Sharks. I think it's a great confidence booster for them, but they really need to focus, and there's still a lot to figure out for them, in my opinion. But getting into the specific points that I want to bring up, um, and I'm going to start with Villy Leroux. What an absolute shockingly poor game. And I feel justified in saying this. If I look at a lot of the teams, provincial teams, I would honestly say Villy Leroux at the moment is the worst fullback in the country. You look at Stormers, obviously Galant, Q and Horn at the Lions, even the Sharks. Obviously Fassi um, is injured, but obviously he's better. And yeah, look at the Cheetahs, Michael Anis. Um, there's a lot of players that I think are better than Villy Leroux, and defensively he's pretty poor. Um, People will carry on about that forward pass. I do think it was a forward pass, but I mean, yeah, whatever. But there was a moment where he had the opportunity to go wide and he went for the cross kick, and I'm not against the cross kick at all, but the execution was shocking. And he goes for the cross kick, and it literally goes like 5 meters to the Sharks player that's just in front of him. And I thought, what in the world? Like, this is the quality that the Bulls have at fullback. And the problem is, I don't think Devin Williams is necessarily much better than Villy Leroux. When it comes to quality, I just think they're different types of fullbacks. So the Bulls have got a massive issue at fullback, and Villy Leroux is a big issue. And I mean, my argument would be: do you really want to tell me that there is absolutely no one better in the youth setup for the Bulls? Because if so, then there's a problem with the Bulls' youth setup and the type of quality that the Bulls actually bring in into their youth side. So another big issue for the Bulls, and another very poor weekend for Valerio Leroux. I'm not sure what the plan is moving forward for Jan Ackerman, but it's something that desperately needs to be changed. And then another poor performance that I want to bring up is the Bulls centers. Mr. Rock Norris and I spoke last weekend about Harold Foster, mentioning he doesn't have a distribution game, he can't pass or doesn't pass, and I thought I thought it quite ironic this weekend where the Bulls make a break. Ulrich takes it up, chicken wing to John Darulov, who puts his burners on, manages to gain 40 meters or so. Bulls set up the ruck. Sharks defense is in tatters. It's all over the place. Obviously, tracking back. Papier gets it to Forster, and Forster passes it, interception, and it's the first try of the game, Sharks try. And I thought, yeah, it's quite funny that Forster can't pass or doesn't pass. Most selfish play, doesn't have a distribution game, and when he does try and pass, it goes in for an interception. So great to see, but yeah, I mean, if I think about the quality and what someone like Andre Esterhuizen did to the Bulls this weekend, uh, it's evident to see the quality difference between the two center pairings. Obviously, the Sharks have two Springbok centers, where the Bulls don't. Um, and I think it was a massive issue. I really don't think David Kriel is an outside center. I thought another poor game from him at outside center. Um, if Again, in my opinion, I think he's best suited to inside center. I think his qualities suit inside center better. I think he has a better distribution game, although not perfect. He doesn't have to. Thing is, outside center, in terms of defensive responsibility, is much different and way more technical to someone like inside center. Inside center is about your power game. There's guys running on you, running straight lines, trying to bump you, trying to knock you over and running as hard as they can. Outside center is a much different ball game. You need to read defensively, who's going outside, who's going inside, who's running the inside channels, where's the winger. There's a lot more depth to a outside center's defensive responsibilities than inside center. And you look at someone like Kanan Moody, he reads a game extremely well, and that's why I think as an outside center he could work. I think he's really good. Same with Jesse Kriel. They are made for outside center. That's the position they played. They've got years experience. Even if you look at schoolboy rugby, that's the position they played. David Kriel um, didn't do that. I think he's a stopgap at outside center. He's someone that could fill a role. But again, you look at this weekend's games, uh, the centers are actually the positions that I was most worried about for the Bulls, and I think it came to pass that the difference in quality really showed. And I'm not saying that's the reason the Bulls lost the game. There was a lot more mistakes that were made in the game, but I think it made an absolutely massive difference. I think looking at Villiers Leroux and our center pairing for the Bulls, we really lacked there. And I think if we had even half decent players in those positions, I would argue Stedman Gans and David Kriel actually, that center combination works better than Harold Forster and David Kriel. Um, and I think the Bulls actually probably would have done better if those two were um, were playing instead of Harold Forster and Kriel at outside center. So again, massive issue. And then Villiers Leroux is, it's a big issue, and I'm not sure what Johan Ackerman's plans are. I mean, it's another loss for him, and I do blame the players. I think Johan Ackerman can't catch a ball for the Bulls. Um, those are simple mistakes that you would expect professional rugby players to be able to handle. I know Andre Esterhuizen said after the game that there was a lot of dew, the ball was very slippery, but unfortunately, I really don't think there's much of an excuse. Everyone had to play like that. Um, and yeah, I just think, to be honest, I think if the Stormers played against the Sharks in that game, I think the Stormers would have run away with the game. Um, I thought it was just a poor game between two sides who really aren't in good form, although they have really good players. I think it was just a shockingly disappointing game, and really didn't live up to the spectacle and the hype that it was probably meant to be. Um, and then actually one point I want to bring up before I forget and before I close off is the Bulls line out. We really struggled. I thought a lot of the throw-ins weren't very accurate, either going over the top or just short, especially in the first half. Uh, if I look at, obviously Joe van Heerden is your main man at line out. He calls the line outs, and it was a lot of times where I thought the line out just came too short. It was very easy to compete. I don't think it was as accurate as it probably should have been, and probably as accurate as it should have been from a Springbok hooker and a hooker who is looking to really lock in his place in the Springbok squad. I think there's a lot of competition for uh, someone like Johan Grobelaar, who, he's been in and out of the Springbok squad for a number of years now. Marnus van der Merwe was chosen above him in the beginning of the year, and he managed to obviously make his way into the end of year tour. And I think he's actually a really good player. He's mobile. He's very good over the ball, and I don't know. Of late, I think it's a case of, for some reason, his line-out throwings just haven't been as accurate as it always was. I thought in the beginning of his career, this guy doesn't miss a throw-in. He hits his man 10 out of 10 times, and of late, it's just not that. So I thought the line-out was quite poor. But I mean, with that being said, I don't think you can solely blame Johan Grobbelaar either. I thought when Akker van der Merwe came on as well, again, lineouts over the top, not accurate enough. So the lineout is also something that the Bulls are really going to have to work on, because we struggled against Northampton Saints as well. Lineouts were shockingly poor. So yeah, Johan Ackerman, I blame the players a lot, but Johan Ackerman is the coach, and as a coach, you have to try and figure out a way to win with the players that you have available to you. So I don't think we can take the blame away from Johan Ackerman completely, and something desperately has to change um, for the Bulls in order for them to start winning again. And I think it's again a team bereft of confidence, and confidence makes a massive difference. And I think that's why the Sharks, I'm hoping they can start building from these last two wins, get some confidence back, because I think the quality of players that they actually have, they are much better than what they are playing this season so far. So let's hope for the Sharks they can gain some confidence again, and the Bulls desperately need a win somewhere, whether it be an ugly win or a good win. The Bulls need a win so they can start getting their confidence back as well. But yeah, let us know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Like and subscribe. Thank you for joining me tonight and listening to this week's episode. Next episode, we're actually going to be jumping into the team of the week and our opinions on that. Who we thought was this past weekend's players of the weekend, and then also our player of the week, who we thought was the man of the weekend. So yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comment section, and thank you for listening in. I hope everyone has a fantastic um, a fantastic week further.